This is number 14 for the PocbooksCrypto special, the exclusive group. Perceptive readers, I want to share something important with you. And for the ones who have really been wondering about this subject, I want to clarify it for you. And it does have to do with wages and inheritance. I've mentioned scriptures in the past, like in the book of James and others, that really go to show in God's eyes certain way that even the slaves or the hired laborer were supposed to be treated, and how their wages were not supposed to be held back for anything. I mentioned about the Mosaic law in times past, about even if someone had to give their garment to acquire some type of supplies or something for that day, then the person who borrowed the garment or what have you had to return that person's garment back because it was the only clothes they had on their back. You know, same thing with hand meals and things of that nature. Now, I want to give you an example due to the fact that, I always talked about in times past quite a bit from Matthew chapter 7, where I said, you respect the ones who actually are placed in charge of this or that. And yet, I know over the years at times you've heard me make statements such as, no one has this authority to do this or that, no matter what position they may be in. And I know it surprised quite, many of you, because from what you've been told and certain ones that you've worked closely with, I know they gave you the impression and even told you at times, I do have the authority to do this or that. And so I'm here to tell you today and to show you, where I'm not going to show you, I want to reference it, that no, according to God's word, you heard me mention that the conscience is something that is not supposed to be trampled upon of the person. You see, that is given by God. And now you've heard me talk about wages and inheritance. And I'm going to give you an example to show you just how serious this is, because of the simple fact, when people look at the Hebrew scriptures of the Old Testament, and then they also look at the New Testament or the Christian Greek scriptures, see, one thing that they actually pick up is that, it seems like there's more love, you see, in the Christian Greek scriptures. However, I always share with you that really, no, God has not changed. It's just that dependent on, once again, the operation or what system is in place, you still see the different facets and understanding of why he said certain things and why he even allowed certain things. Now, with that being said, there were still certain things he just wouldn't allow. And so you heard me mention about the wages and inheritance. All right. Now, there was a man named Naboth, and he had a vineyard. And I love to use a vineyard and grapes and wine to describe writings, to describe people's talent, how seasoned they are in their abilities and skills. You know that. And so in the Bible, though, this man really did have a very nice vineyard. Wonderful vineyard. It was so wonderful, it caught the attention of the king in Israel at that time. And the king actually wanted to buy that vineyard. And what the man whose name was Naboth said, no, I'm not going to sell you my vineyard. So the king got upset, went home pouting and things of that nature. And then his wife, I'm going to have you look up who his wife's name is. That's going to tell you a lot right there. But she actually did prompt him, because of his authority, you see, as a king, to just take the man's vineyard. And so what ended up happening is the man did take Naboth's vineyard, but he took his life first to even take the vineyard. Now, some may actually think that the crime started with the way that he concocted this law or what have you, or went against the law to actually steal Naboth's vineyard. But no, already it was actually not Naboth's, you see, right in a sense, if I want to use that word, to give away his inheritance that was belonged to him and belonged to his family. Why? Because that's what God gave them, him himself, gave his family himself. And God, makes it clear in the law. That's why, you even had things such as the Sabbath and Jubilee years and things of that nature, how the land, remember I told you, and wages had to be forgiven and stuff like that and returned back to the persons or the family who originally had it. See, that's how important it was to God that no one stayed in perpetuity poor. You see, that's one of the reasons. But as you can see, too, when it comes to inheritance, it says, once again, so much about God's personality, his honoring, his gifts, his blessings. It says so much, but this is not the scope of what we're talking about in this PocbooksCrypto moment. The scope that we are talking about is this shows right then and there to you that even though this person was the king over Israel, you see, even that person still didn't have the right to take an inheritance from somebody who may be considered a commoner, you see, a citizen of, today. That was not a right given. And if that's once again shown very clearly in the Mosaic law, in the Old Testament, and then we go to the Christian Greek scriptures of love, and the law of love and law of the Christ, which shows so much more that, boy, many of the things or even the physical disciplines that were done back then are not allowed, or even promoted in the Christian congregation today, then how much more so anybody who would take upon the role of, a prophet, a deacon, a priest, or what have you, to all of a sudden say, because you are one of the sheep in my flock, I have this right to take, this inheritance from you, and actually to do it. Does that sound somewhat what happened to Naboth? So that's why I want to share with you all that, yes, we respect the authority of such ones and things of that nature. But remember, that's why God had these things written in his word, so that even his commoner, his middle class, his lower class, his poor people would know, hey, no, this is going beyond what is written. I can be like Naboth and say, no, you can't make me do this or do that because it's going against my conscience. You see, as a Christian, that's as far as mostly as we go, but it really goes to show you again that it's not a thing of wanting to be disrespectful. It just goes to show again, being in a perfect state. One of the reasons why God has his word is to show when even, these ones that are placed in authority, sometimes when they get out of hand, and, it can be nipped in the bud right then, because God's word can settle the matter just like that. You see, not to go beyond what is written. So I just wanted to share that with you. Have a very good day.